The coffee mug slipped from my hand, shattering against the kitchen tiles as my wife Sam stood there in her designer dress, suitcase at her feet, telling me she was flying to Barcelona with her ex-boyfriend Julian. "Don't be jealous, Evan," she said with that practiced smile she used on opposing counsel. "It's just a week. Julian's going through a rough patch with Natalie, and he needs a friend." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I stared at the coffee spreading across our Italian marble floor, the floor we'd picked out together 3 years ago when we thought we were building something permanent. Sam was a corporate lawyer at Henderson & Associates, the kind who billed $400 an hour and drove a BMW that cost more than most people's houses. I was a crime novelist who occasionally did private investigation work, which meant I knew how to spot lies. And this was a whopper. "Just like that?" I asked, crouching to pick up the ceramic shards. "You're flying to Spain with the guy you dated for 2 years before we met, and I'm supposed to smile and wave?" "Exactly." She checked her Rolex, a gift from her last big case. "My Uber's coming in 10 minutes. Julian's already at the airport." The casual way she said his name made my stomach turn. Julian Cross was everything I wasn't. Old money, tech entrepreneur, the kind of guy who wore $1,000 sneakers and called them investments. He'd married Natalie Brennan, a pediatric surgeon, 5 years ago in what the society pages called the wedding of the decade. "What does Natalie think about this therapeutic vacation?" I asked. Sam's smile flickered. "She's understanding. She knows Julian needs space to process their issues." Another lie. I could see it in the way her left eye twitched, a tell I'd learned during 8 years of marriage. But I didn't call her on it. Instead, I stood up, dumped the ceramic pieces in the trash, and looked at my wife. Really looked at her. The woman I'd married was ambitious, sure, but she'd also been warm. She'd laugh at my terrible jokes and fall asleep reading my rough drafts. This woman, this stranger in designer clothes, was calculating. Cold. She'd been planning this for weeks, maybe months. "Have fun," I said. The words seemed to surprise her. She'd been braced for a fight, armed with justifications and accusations about my controlling behavior and trust issues. My calm acceptance threw her off script. "You're okay with this?" "Why wouldn't I be? You're a grown woman. If you want to run off to Europe with your ex-boyfriend while his wife thinks you're having a girls' trip, that's your choice." Her face went pale. "How did you know about the cover story?" "Lucky guess." I poured myself a fresh cup of coffee. "Though I'm curious. Did you tell Julian's wife you were going, or did he handle that lie himself?" Sam's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I caught a glimpse of the contact name. Jay. My wife had heart emojis next to another man's name in her phone. "That's my ride," she said, grabbing her suitcase. "We'll talk when I get back." "Sure we will." She paused at the kitchen door. "Evan, I know this looks like you're cheating on me with a married man?" "Yeah, it does." "It's not like that." "Then what's it like, Sam?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then shook her head. "I can't do this right now. Julian's waiting." And there it was, the truth she'd been dancing around. Julian was waiting, and that mattered more than her husband's feelings, more than her marriage, more than the vows we'd taken in front of 200 people. The front door slammed. Through the window, I watched my wife load her suitcase into a black sedan. She didn't look back. I waited until the car disappeared around the corner, then pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I was looking for. Natalie Cross answered on the second ring. "Evan, is everything okay?" "Hi, Natalie. I'm calling because I think there's something you should know. My wife just left for Barcelona with your husband." Silence. Then, "What did you say?" "Julian invited Sam to Spain. She's on her way to the airport right now. I thought you should know before they—" "That son of a bitch." Her voice was ice cold. "He told me he was going to a tech conference in Austin. I'm sorry, Natalie. I know this is—" "Don't apologize. Thank you for calling me. Do you have any proof?" I thought about Sam's suitcase, her designer dress, the heart emoji next to Julian's name. "Some, but I can get more." "Good, because I'm about to ruin both of them." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, feeling something dark and satisfied settle in my chest. Sam wanted to play games? Fine. But she'd forgotten one crucial detail about her husband. I was very, very good at games, and I always won. My phone started ringing before I'd finished cleaning up the coffee. Sam's name flashed on the screen. She was probably at the airport, having second thoughts, or maybe just wanting to make sure I wasn't planning anything dramatic. I let it go to voicemail, then it rang again, and again. On the fourth call, I answered. Miss me already? Evan, we need to talk. Her voice was strained, urgent. I just got off the phone with Julian and, let me guess, his wife knows. How did you... She caught herself. You called her, didn't you? I thought she deserved to know where her husband was spending the week. Call me old-fashioned. You bastard. You couldn't just let me... What? Cheat on me in peace? Sorry, sweetheart, I'm inconsiderate that way. I could hear airport announcements in the background, the bustle of travelers who weren't running away from their marriages. Julian's furious, she said. He thinks you're trying to sabotage... His affair? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. It's not an affair. Then come home. Another pause. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder, more like the lawyer who destroyed witnesses on cross-examination. I'm getting on that plane, Evan, with or without your blessing. I already gave you my blessing, remember? Have fun in Barcelona. Send postcards. I hung up and immediately called my best friend Richie, who owned an auto shop downtown and had known me since high school. If anyone would appreciate the beautiful irony of this situation, it was him. Morales Auto, he answered, sounding distracted. It's me. You busy? Just finishing up a brake job. What's up? You sound weird. Sam left me for her ex-boyfriend. They're flying to Spain as we speak. Jesus Christ, are you okay? I'm fantastic. Want to help me burn their lives to the ground? Richie laughed, a sound like gravel in a cement mixer. Now you're talking. What do you need? Information first. Then we'll see about property damage. I'll be right over. While I waited for Richie, I did what any good private investigator would do. I started digging. Sam had left her laptop on the kitchen counter, probably assuming I wouldn't violate her privacy. That assumption was about to prove very, very wrong. Her email was a gold mine. Months of correspondence with Julian, starting innocent enough. How are you? And, it was great seeing you at the Henderson Christmas party, but escalating quickly into something that made my stomach turn. I can't stop thinking about what you said at dinner. Maybe we should talk in person. Natalie's working late again. Sometimes I feel like I'm married to a ghost. I dreamed about you last night. About us. About what we could have been. And then, 3 weeks ago. I'm booking the Barcelona trip. Tell Natalie whatever you want. I need to be with you. Sam's responses were just as damning. She'd been planning this betrayal for months, crafting elaborate lies about work trips and girls' weekends to cover her tracks. She'd even used our joint credit card to pay for dinners with Julian, listing them as client entertainment on her expense reports. My wife wasn't just cheating, she was stealing from her law firm to fund the affair. Richie arrived 20 minutes later, carrying a six-pack of beer and wearing his usual uniform of grease-stained coveralls. He was built like a linebacker, with hands that could rebuild an engine from scratch and a loyalty that ran deeper than blood. So, he said, settling onto the couch and cracking open a beer. How bad is it? I showed him the emails. His expression grew darker with each message. That pretentious piece of shit, he muttered. I never liked him. Remember when he came to your birthday party last year? Spent the whole night talking about his portfolio and looking at everyone like we were beneath him. I remember. And now he's stolen your wife. Borrowed, I corrected. I don't think Sam realizes she's just a midlife crisis in a designer dress. Richie studied me over his beer bottle. You're taking this awfully well. Most guys would be punching walls right about now. Most guys don't have 8 years of marriage to a corporate lawyer. I learned a long time ago that revenge is a dish best served calculated. So, what's the plan? I closed Sam's laptop and leaned back in my chair. First, we document everything. Every lie, every stolen dollar, every fake expense report. Then we make sure the right people see it. The law firm? Among others. I pulled up Natalie's contact information. But first, I want to coordinate with the other injured party. If we're going to destroy them, we might as well do it together. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Natalie. Can you meet me tonight? I have information you'll want to see. I showed the message to Richie, who grinned like a shark. Oh, this is going to be fun, he said. We met Natalie at Murphy's Pub, a dive bar downtown where the lighting was dim and the bartender minded his own business. She was already there when we arrived, sitting in a corner booth with a manila folder and a glass of wine that looked untouched. Natalie Cross was beautiful in an understated way. Auburn hair, intelligent green eyes, the kind of quiet confidence that came from saving children's lives for a living. She looked tired, though, and there was something brittle in her smile when she saw us. Thank you for coming, she said as we slid into the booth across from her. I wasn't sure you'd want to meet. Are you kidding? Richie said. This is the most interesting thing that's happened to us in years. Natalie's smile became more genuine. I like your friend. Richie Morales, he said, extending a grease-stained hand. And I'm sorry your husband's an asshole. So am I. She opened the manila folder and spread its contents across the table. But he's also a stupid asshole, which works in our favor. The documents were devastating. Bank statements showing Julian had been siphoning money from their joint accounts. Credit card bills for expensive dinners, hotel rooms, and jewelry. None of it for his wife. Phone records showing hundreds of calls and texts to Sam's number. He's been planning this for months, Natalie said. Maybe longer. I found a storage unit key in his desk, paid for with cash, rented under a fake name. Want to guess what's inside? Please tell me it's something illegal, Richie said. Better, it's something embarrassing. She slid a photograph across the table. He's been writing poetry. I looked at the image. Pages and pages of handwritten verses, all dedicated to S, my golden goddess, and the woman who completes my soul. The poetry was terrible, full of overwrought metaphors and rhymes that didn't quite work. This is, I started. Humiliating, Natalie finished. He's been working on an entire collection. Odes to Forbidden Love, or some such nonsense. He's planning to self-publish it when he leaves me. Richie was laughing so hard he nearly fell off his chair. Oh my God. He thinks he's Shakespeare. The best part, Natalie continued, is that he's already sent query letters to literary agents under his real name, with his real contact information. I stared at her, impressed despite myself. You've been planning this for a while. Since I found the first hotel receipt 3 months ago. I'm a surgeon, Evan. I believe in thorough preparation before I cut someone open. So, what's the plan? She leaned forward, her green eyes glinting with something that might have been anticipation. We give them exactly what they want. We let them have their romantic week in Barcelona. Let them think they've won. And then? Then we destroy them so completely that they'll wish they'd never met each other. I raised my beer bottle in a toast. To thorough preparation. To revenge, Natalie corrected. To making them pay, Richie added. We clinked glasses, and I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Genuine happiness. Sam thought she was so clever, so careful in her deception. She had no idea what was coming, but she was about to find out. The first video arrived at 2 a.m. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling and listening to the house settle around me, when my phone buzzed with a message from Natalie. No words, just a video file. I almost didn't open it. Almost decided that whatever Sam and Julian were doing in Barcelona, I didn't want to see it. But curiosity won out, and I pressed play. The video was shaky, obviously shot through a window or from a distance. It showed Sam and Julian on what looked like a hotel balcony overlooking the Mediterranean. They were arguing. I couldn't hear the words, but their body language was unmistakable. Sam was gesturing wildly, her face flushed with anger. Julian had his arms crossed, his expression cold and dismissive. Then Sam slapped him. The video ended there, but 30 seconds later, another message arrived from Natalie. Trouble in paradise. My contact in Barcelona is very thorough. I stared at the phone, trying to process what I'd just seen. Sam had slapped Julian. Whatever romantic fantasy they'd been living was already cracking. What did your contact hear? I texted back. Julian told her he's having second thoughts. That leaving his wife for someone else's wife is complicated. Sam called him a coward. Good. It gets better. Julian's been getting calls from business partners all day. Someone leaked information about his affair to his investors. I sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. Someone? Me. Turns out tech bros get nervous when their golden boy starts making headlines for adultery. His stock options just became very expensive paperweights. I was beginning to understand why Julian had fallen for Sam. Natalie Cross was absolutely ruthless when she wanted to be. The next morning, I drove to Sam's law firm. Henderson and Associates occupied 3 floors of a glass tower downtown, the kind of building that screamed, "We charge too much, and we're proud of it." I'd been there exactly twice. Once for a Christmas party, once for a partner's dinner where Sam had introduced me as my husband the novelist, in a tone that suggested I was a mildly embarrassing hobby. The receptionist, a young woman with perfect makeup and a practiced smile, looked up as I approached her desk. "I'm here to see Robert Henderson," I said. "It's about Sam Ryder." "Do you have an appointment?" "Tell him it's about billing irregularities and expense account fraud. He'll see me." Her smile faltered. Let me check if he's available." Henderson appeared 5 minutes later, looking exactly like what he was, a man who'd built a legal empire on the backs of associates who billed 90 hours a week. He was tall, silver-haired, with the kind of presence that made juries trust him and opposing counsel fear him. "Mr. Ryder," he said, extending a hand. "This is unexpected. Rebecca mentioned something about billing irregularities. Can we talk privately?" He led me to his office, a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows and enough leather furniture to upholster a small airplane. The walls were covered with diplomas, bar admissions, and photographs of Henderson shaking hands with politicians and celebrities. "Coffee?" he offered. "No thanks. This won't take long." I placed a manila folder on his desk, copies of Sam's emails, credit card statements, and expense reports. Henderson opened it, and I watched his expression change as he read. "Where did you get these?" "Does it matter? The question is what you're going to do about it." Henderson closed the folder and leaned back in his chair. "Sam is one of our most valuable associates. She billed over 2,800 hours last year, while stealing from the firm to fund her affair. Alleged affair." I pulled out my phone and showed him the video Natalie had sent. Henderson watched it twice, his face growing harder each time. "This is Barcelona?" he asked. "Yesterday, while she's supposed to be on medical leave for stress." Henderson was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the city skyline. Finally, he spoke. "What do you want?" "I want her fired. I want her license reviewed by the Bar Association, and I want everyone in this building to know exactly what kind of person they've been working with. And in exchange? I don't take this to the press. I don't file a complaint with the Ethics Board. I don't make this a public scandal that destroys your firm's reputation." Henderson nodded slowly. "I'll need to discuss this with the other partners." "You have until tomorrow morning. After that, I start making phone calls." I left the folder on his desk and walked out, feeling lighter than I had in days. Sam thought her career was untouchable, that her reputation would protect her from consequences. She was about to learn otherwise. My phone rang as I reached the parking garage. Sam's number. "Hello, darling," I answered. "How's the vacation?" "You son of a bitch." Her voice was raw, exhausted. "Julian just got a call from his board of directors. Someone's been spreading rumors about us." "Rumors? I thought you said it wasn't an affair." "Don't play games with me, Evan. I know it was you." "Actually, it wasn't, but I'm glad someone's finally paying attention." There was a pause, filled with the sound of traffic and distant voices. When Sam spoke again, she sounded different, smaller, more vulnerable than I'd heard her in years. "He left me," she said. "What?" "Julian. He got scared when his investors started asking questions. He said the risk wasn't worth it, that he couldn't throw away his life for a fling." Her voice broke on the last word. I should have felt satisfaction. Victory. Instead, I felt something uncomfortably close to pity. "Sam?" He booked himself on the next flight home, left me at the hotel with a note and a credit card that got declined when I tried to pay for breakfast. "Where are you now?" "The airport, trying to get on standby for anything back to the States." She was crying now, quiet sobs that made her words hard to understand. "I don't have enough money for a full-price ticket." "What about your credit cards?" "Maxed out. The Barcelona trip cost more than I thought, and Julian was supposed to cover half, but..." She trailed off. I sat in my car, listening to my wife cry in a foreign airport, and felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness? I wasn't ready for that, might never be ready for that. But something that might have been compassion. "I can wire you money for a ticket," I said. "You would do that, after everything?" "You're still my wife. I'm not going to leave you stranded." "Thank you." The relief in her voice was palpable. "When I get home, we can talk. We can figure this out." "Sam?" "Yeah?" "Don't come to the house. Go to a hotel. We'll talk when you're ready, but not at home, not yet." The line went quiet. When she spoke again, her voice was small and defeated. "Okay, I understand." After I hung up, I sat in the parking garage for a long time, thinking about the woman I'd married and the stranger she'd become. Then I called Richie. "How'd it go with the lawyer?" he asked. "Good. Henderson's going to handle it, but there's something else." I told him about Sam's call, about Julian abandoning her in Barcelona. "Jesus," Richie said when I finished. "That's cold, even for him." "Yeah. You okay? You sound weird." I thought about that. Was I okay? My wife had cheated on me, lied to me, stolen from her employer to fund her affair. She was probably going to lose her job, maybe her law license. Her lover had abandoned her in a foreign country like she was yesterday's newspaper. "I'm fine," I said. "Better than fine. I'm winning." "Then why do you sound like someone died?" Because someone did. The woman I married died months ago. I'm just now having the funeral. That evening, Natalie called with an update. Julian's back, she said. Came home this afternoon with his tail between his legs. Wants to work things out and rebuild our marriage. What did you tell him? That he could work things out with my divorce attorney. I filed papers this morning. Fast work. I told you, I believe in preparation. I've been documenting his affairs for months. Not just Sam, either. There were others. That surprised me. Others? A paralegal at his lawyer's office, a marketing consultant, a bartender at the club where he plays tennis. Sam was just the latest in a long line of midlife crisis casualties. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Does Sam know? Not yet, but she will. I'm planning to send her copies of all the evidence tomorrow, along with a little note explaining that she wasn't special, just convenient. Natalie? She needs to know what kind of man she threw her marriage away for, don't you think? I thought about Sam, alone in the Barcelona airport, crying over a man who'd discarded her the moment things got complicated. Then I thought about the emails I'd read, the months of planning and deception, the casual way she'd destroyed our marriage for a fantasy. Yes, I said. I think she does. Good, because tomorrow we finish this. Sam's flight landed at 6 a.m. on a gray Thursday morning. I knew because I'd tracked it online, the same way I'd been tracking every detail of her life since she'd walked out our front door. Knowledge was power, and I intended to have all the power in whatever conversation was coming. She didn't call, didn't text. For 12 hours, my wife was a ghost in her own city. Then Richie called. You need to see this, he said. Turn on Channel 7. I grabbed the remote and flipped to the local news. The anchor, a blonde woman with perfect teeth and dead eyes, was reading from a teleprompter with practiced concern. No allegations of financial impropriety at the prestigious law firm of Henderson and Associates. Sources close to the investigation say that a senior associate has been suspended pending a review of billing practices and expense account irregularities. They didn't name Sam directly, but they didn't need to. Anyone who knew her would recognize the description. A high-profile attorney specializing in corporate litigation who had been placed on administrative leave following questions about client billing and personal use of company funds. My phone rang. Sam's number. Did you see it? Her voice was hoarse, exhausted. I saw it. They fired me, Evan. 8 years with that firm, and they fired me over the phone. Wouldn't even let me come in to clean out my office. I'm sorry. No, you're not. This is what you wanted, isn't it? To destroy my career. I thought about that. Was this what I'd wanted? Or had I just wanted her to face consequences for her choices? I wanted you to be honest with me, I said. I wanted our marriage to matter. I wanted you to choose me over him. I did choose you. I came home. You came home because he abandoned you. There's a difference. Silence on the line. Then, can I come over? We need to talk. I told you, not the house, not yet. Then where? I thought about it. Neutral ground. Somewhere public enough that we couldn't scream at each other, private enough that we could be honest. Murphy's Pub, 8 o'clock. Okay, and Evan? Yeah? I love you. I know I screwed up, but I love you. She hung up before I could respond, which was probably for the best. I wasn't sure what I would have said. Murphy's was nearly empty when I arrived, just a few regulars nursing beers and watching a baseball game on the ancient TV above the bar. I chose the same booth where I'd met with Natalie, ordered a whiskey, and waited. Sam arrived 10 minutes late, looking like she'd aged 5 years in a week. Her designer clothes were wrinkled, her makeup smudged. She looked like what she was, a woman whose carefully constructed life had just collapsed around her. You look terrible, I said as she slid into the booth across from me. Thanks. You look good. She signaled the bartender for a wine. Rested. I've been sleeping better. I bet. She studied my face, looking for something. Forgiveness, maybe, or at least understanding. You really hate me, don't you? No, I hate what you did. I hate what you became, but I don't hate you. The bartender brought her wine. She took a sip, made a face. Murphy's didn't stock the kind of wine Sam was used to, and set the glass down. Julian called me this morning, she said. Did he? He wants to see me, says we need to talk about what happened in Barcelona. I leaned back in the booth, studying my wife's face. And what do you think about that? I think he's scared. His wife filed for divorce. His business partners are asking questions. He's looking for someone to blame. Smart woman. Which one? Both of you, actually. Natalie for getting out before he could do more damage. You for recognizing what he really is. Sam's eyes filled with tears. I was so stupid, Evan. I thought he loved me. I thought we had something real. You did have something real, with me. I know. She reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I pulled it back. I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed everything good between us. But maybe we can start over. Maybe we can... Sam. My voice was gentle but firm. Stop. Stop what? Stop trying to fix this. Some things can't be fixed. She stared at me, the tears flowing freely now. So that's it? 8 years of marriage and you're just giving up? I'm not giving up. I'm accepting reality. You made a choice. You chose him over me, over us, over everything we built together. The fact that he turned out to be a coward doesn't change that choice. But I love you. Maybe you do. But you also love the idea of him more than you love the reality of me. And I can't live with that. My phone buzzed with a text. I glanced at it and felt my blood run cold. It was from an unknown number, but the message was clear. Check your email now. I need to step outside for a minute, I told Sam. Evan, please don't leave. We're finally talking. I'll be right back. I walked out to the parking lot and opened my email app. The message was from Natalie with a subject line that made my stomach drop. Emergency. Sam in danger. Julian just called Sam, didn't he? Don't let her meet with him alone. I just found out about the others, the women who came before her. One of them ended up in the hospital. Another filed a restraining order. He gets violent when he's cornered, and right now he's very, very cornered. I stared at the phone, my mind racing. Sam was vulnerable, desperate to make sense of what had happened to her. If Julian called and offered explanations, apologies, promises, she might be stupid enough to meet with him. I rushed back into the bar. Sam was gone. Where did she go? I asked the bartender. Got a phone call, left about 2 minutes ago, looked upset. I ran outside, scanning the parking lot. Sam's BMW was gone, but I could see taillights disappearing around the corner. I called her phone. It went straight to voicemail, then I called Natalie. He got to her, I said without preamble. Shit. Where? I don't know. She left Murphy's after getting a call. What did you find out about the other women? Julian has a pattern. When his affairs end badly, he gets physical. The bartender, Jessica, ended up with a broken wrist. Said she fell downstairs, but the hospital photos tell a different story. Jesus Christ. There's more. The paralegal, Maria, filed a police report but dropped the charges after Julian's lawyers got involved. Someone paid her a lot of money to disappear. I was already in my car, driving toward downtown. Any idea where he might take her? His office building has a penthouse. He uses it for private meetings. Top floor, corner unit. I'm going there now. Evan, wait. Call the police. And tell them what? That my estranged wife is meeting with her ex-lover? They'll laugh me off the phone. Then I'm coming with you? No. If this goes bad, I don't want you involved. Too late. I'm already involved. And unlike you, I have a key to the building. 20 minutes later, we met in the lobby of Julian's office building, a gleaming tower of steel and glass that scraped the belly of the low-hanging clouds. Natalie looked like she'd dressed in a hurry, but her eyes were sharp and focused. Security? I asked. One guard, and he knows me. I've been here for company parties. She led me to the elevators, used a key card to access the penthouse level. Julian's paranoid about privacy. The top floor is soundproofed. That was not reassuring. The elevator rose silently, floor numbers ticking by like a countdown. When the doors opened, we could hear voices. Julian's smooth baritone and Sam's higher pitch, strained with emotion. Told you, it was never supposed to go this far, Julian was saying. Then why did you invite me to Barcelona? Sam's voice was thick with tears. Why did you make me believe? Because I was lonely, because Natalie was never home, and you were available. The words hit like physical blows. I saw Natalie flinch, her face going pale. Available? Sam's voice rose. Is that all I was to you? What did you think this was? True love? You're a nice distraction, Sam, but you were never going to be anything more. We crept closer to the sound of their voices, staying low behind a reception desk. Through a glass partition, I could see them in what looked like a conference room. Julian was standing by the windows, his back to Sam. She was sitting at the table, her shoulders shaking. I left my husband for you, she said. I never asked you to do that. You said you loved me. Julian turned around, and I could see his face clearly for the first time. He looked tired, annoyed, like Sam was a problem he needed to solve quickly. I said a lot of things. People say a lot of things when they're fucking. The casual cruelty of it made me want to break down the door and put my fist through his face. Beside me, Natalie was recording everything on her phone. Sam stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "You're a bastard. And you're a naive little girl who confused good sex with love." Julian stepped closer to her, his voice dropping to something that sounded almost like a threat. "But here's what's going to happen now. You're going to go back to your husband, assuming he'll take you, and you're going to forget this ever happened. Or what? Or I make sure you never work as a lawyer again. Or anywhere else, for that matter. You think Henderson and Associates fired you? That was nothing. I have friends in this city, Sam, important friends. One phone call from me, and you'll be lucky to get a job waiting tables." Sam slapped him. Just like in the video from Barcelona, her hand connected with his cheek in a sharp crack that echoed through the room. But this time, Julian hit back. His hand caught her across the face with enough force to send her stumbling backward into the conference table. She cried out, more in shock than pain, and raised her hand to her cheek. "Don't ever do that again," Julian said, his voice deadly calm. That's when I kicked in the door. "Get away from her." Julian spun around, his face cycling through surprise, anger, and something that might have been fear. Sam was still leaning against the conference table, one hand pressed to her reddening cheek, staring at me like I was a ghost. "Evan?" she whispered. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, but I could see the mark where Julian's hand had connected with her face. Something dark and violent stirred in my chest. "This is a private conversation," Julian said, trying to regain his composure. "You're trespassing." Actually, he's not. Natalie stepped into view behind me, holding up her key card. "I gave him permission to be here. As your wife, I still have access rights to all your properties." Julian's face went white. "Natalie, what are you doing here?" "Protecting someone from you, again." She held up her phone. "I got everything, by the way, the threats, the violence, all of it." "You were recording?" "Just like I recorded all your other affairs. Just like I recorded you hitting Jessica when she tried to break up with you. Just like I recorded you threatening Maria when she wanted to go to the police." Julian's mask slipped completely. The smooth, confident businessman disappeared, replaced by something ugly and desperate. "You can't use any of that. Spousal privilege doesn't apply to criminal activity," Natalie finished. "And assault is a crime, Julian, even when you pay people to keep quiet about it." I moved closer to Sam, keeping myself between her and Julian. "We're leaving, all of us." "No." Julian's voice was sharp, panicked. "You don't understand. If this gets out, if people find out about the affairs, about the business deals I made while I was distracted, I'll lose everything." "Good," I said. "You don't know what you're doing. I have powerful friends. People who won't appreciate having their investments threatened by some nobody novelist and his cheating wife." "Are you threatening me?" Julian laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I don't need to threaten you. I just need to make some phone calls. Your little books sell what, a few thousand copies? Your PI business brings in maybe 30 grand a year? You think you can fight me? You think you can win?" I looked at this man, this pathetic, desperate creature who'd stolen my wife and then discarded her like trash, and felt something cold and final settle in my chest. "I already won," I said. "What?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. It was open to Twitter, where a video was already going viral. The video Natalie had just recorded, uploaded in real time to every social media platform she could access. "You see, Julian, while you were busy threatening my wife, Natalie was live streaming everything to her followers. All 15,000 of them." Julian grabbed for the phone, but I pulled it back. "Too late. It's already been shared 300 times. Want to see the comments?" His face was ashen now. "Delete it. Delete it right now." "Can't delete what's already out there," Natalie said cheerfully. "Amazing how fast things spread when you tag local news stations and your husband's business partners." "You bitches destroyed me." He lunged at Natalie, but I caught him by the shirt and slammed him back against the window. For a moment, we were face to face, and I could see the fear in his eyes. "Don't," I said quietly. "Don't make this worse for yourself." "It can't get worse. You've ruined everything." "No, Julian. You ruined everything. We just made sure everyone could see it." My phone was buzzing with notifications, comments, shares, news outlets picking up the story. In the span of 10 minutes, Julian Cross had gone from respected businessman to viral villain. "The police are on their way," Natalie announced. "I called them when Julian hit Sam. They should be here any minute." As if summoned by her words, we could hear sirens in the distance, growing louder. Julian slumped against the window, all the fight gone out of him. "This isn't over," he said weakly. "Yes, it is." I turned to Sam, who had been watching the whole scene with wide, shocked eyes. "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly. "I think so. I can't believe I was so stupid. You weren't stupid. You were lonely, and he took advantage of that. I still destroyed our marriage. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. The woman who'd walked out of our kitchen a week ago had been confident, calculating, sure of her choices. This woman was broken, humbled, finally seeing clearly what she'd traded away. Yeah, I said. You did? The police arrived 5 minutes later. 2 uniformed officers who took statements and reviewed Natalie's videos. Julian was arrested for assault, though I suspected his lawyers would have him out on bail within hours. It didn't matter. The damage was done. By the time we left the building, Dr. Julian Cross was trending on Twitter. Local news vans were already pulling up outside. Julian's business partners were probably fielding calls from reporters and investors. His carefully constructed life was collapsing in real time. What happens now? Sam asked as we stood on the sidewalk, watching the media circus unfold. Now you figure out who you want to be, I said. Without him, without me, without anyone else telling you what you're worth. And us? I thought about that. About 8 years of marriage, about love and betrayal and the possibility of forgiveness. About the woman I'd married and the stranger she'd become. There is no us anymore, Sam. There hasn't been for a long time. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know, I wish I could take it all back. So do I. Natalie appeared beside us, looking satisfied and exhausted. Well, that was therapeutic. What will you do now? I asked her. Finish the divorce. Sell the house. Maybe take a vacation somewhere warm. She smiled. Somewhere that isn't Barcelona. Sam laughed despite herself. A broken, bitter sound. I'm sorry, Natalie. For everything. I know you are. And for what it's worth, I think you got punished enough. We stood there for a moment. 3 people whose lives had been shattered by one man's selfishness and cruelty. But we were still standing. We had survived. I should go, Sam said finally. Face whatever comes next. She started to walk away, then turned back. Evan, for what it's worth, I did love you. I know I have a terrible way of showing it, but I did. I know, I said. I loved you too. She nodded and walked away, disappearing into the crowd of reporters and curious onlookers. I watched until I couldn't see her anymore. You okay? Natalie asked. Yeah, I think I am. My phone buzzed with a call from my literary agent. Apparently, the media attention had already reached New York. Publishers were interested in the real story behind the viral video. Movie producers were calling about rights. Looks like you're about to become famous, Natalie observed. Looks like it. What will you write about? I thought about that. About love and betrayal, about revenge and justice, about the difference between the two, about the woman who'd walked out of our kitchen and the man who'd convinced her to throw away everything good in her life. The truth, I said. I'll write about the truth. 6 months later, my book hit the bestseller list. Julian Cross was convicted of assault and sentenced to community service, though his real punishment was the complete destruction of his business and reputation. Natalie moved to California and started over as a pediatric surgeon at a children's hospital in San Diego. Sam and I never spoke again after that night, but I heard through mutual friends that she'd left law altogether and was teaching at a community college upstate. I hoped she'd found some peace. As for me? I kept writing, kept investigating, kept learning that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's simply making sure the truth comes to light. And the truth, as it turned out, was more than enough.